Motherfuckers. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Yay. I'm live on all my platforms now except for Instagram. So, hey, hey, hey. Okay, what's up, everybody? A bitch has got 8 years today. Hang out with you guys for a little bit and share with you guys, how I was able to get 8 years sober. And I was just telling everybody over on TikTok that God blessed me with a unicorn horn today. I've got a fucking zit. Look at it. Can y'all see that zit? Look how fucking big it is. I mean, my whole forehead is clear, looking as beautiful as can be. And then I got this fucking unicorn horn. Bitch motherfuckers. Okay. Anyways, of course I would be cursed with a fucking zit on my 8 year sober birthday. So me and Nate went to Walmart and I got steak and I cooked it and it was delicious. I already ate it, y'all. My husband was like, "Can we eat now?" And I was like, "Okay." So I got 2 New York strip steaks, okay? And I flavored them with this flavoring called Kinder's Buttery Steak flavoring. And when I tell you guys, it was good. It was good. And I didn't like cook it till it was like really, really done. Like I cooked it till it was still had like pink in the middle. It was like medium rare. Usually I'll cook my steak like really well done. And I always fuck it up and it tastes like shit and it's like tough and fucking horrible, right? I was like, I'm not cooking this shit. I'm not overcooking this shit this time. I'm going to cook it and leave some of it to have some blood, baby, some blood. And so that's what I did. It was fucking perfect. I also sauteed mushrooms. So I got all these mushrooms from the produce department, you guys, and I pulled up a video on TikTok on how to saute mushrooms, and I sauteed mushrooms with fresh rosemary. I literally got wine to cook with, sherry wine from the from Walmart to put in there also. And so you don't put that in there right away. That was at the end. But I used olive oil, butter, rosemary, garlic, and I cooked the mushrooms in this like pan. And then I add the little bit of that cooking wine at the end. And all I know is that shit tasted fire, okay? And then I made baked potatoes and steamed broccoli. So I had steak with mushrooms all over the top of it, steamed broccoli, and a baked potato. And it was really, really good. So for those of you guys that don't know, my name is Nicole Pludre, and I've been sober since July 13th of 2015. And I struggle with binge eating disorder in sobriety. And so what I've been trying to do lately here is I've been trying to eat real food. So one of the things that I got into a really bad habit of in my sobriety is eating processed foods all the time. Because what? Processed foods are fast and easy, right? I can grab something, throw it in the microwave, and then it's done really quickly and I don't have to bother with it no more. Well, I didn't realize how much of a negative impact eating processed food was having on my mental health, on my fucking gut, and my motherfucking ass, because I was literally dying from my bowel movements because of how like I would get real clogged up, not from being on MAT either, because I poop like a machine. But because I was eating so much processed food, it was keeping me sick, man. And so what I've been doing recently is I've been really trying to eat real food, real meat, real vegetables, like what somebody told me, and this is something that I used today that helped me a lot, was to only shop on the aisles that are on the outside of the grocery store. So the meat department, the produce department, because everything that's in the middle is processed chemicals. And I was like, that shit right there makes sense. That's something I can do. That's something I can adopt. That's easy. I can understand that, right? And so that's what I did. I went and I got me and my son and my husband steak. I made the broccoli on my own, you guys. I steamed it on my own. I didn't get it from the fucking frozen food section. And I got fresh mushrooms, not from the frozen food section. Okay. I got potatoes, not from the frozen food section. Like I cooked them myself, which is a big deal. I know y'all probably think I'm weird, but if you know anything about addiction, like a lot of the times we will have cross addictions and we'll get sober from drugs and alcohol, but then we'll find ourselves struggling with addictions to other things like food. And that is where I found myself in the last 6 years of my sobriety. I have struggled with overeating, binge eating disorder, food addiction, you know? So, anyways, I wanted to share that like real food triumph with y'all because it's something that I am incorporating into my every single day life now, is that I'm trying to eat no processed food, only real food, which is it's a challenge for me still, and I'm really working hard on it, but I'm trying. So, anyways, I digress. So I've been sober from drugs and alcohol for 8 years today. 8 years ago, on July 2nd, today's the 13th. On July 2nd, 8 years ago, Child Protective Services had left a letter on my door. Scandalous. It was at the old house that I lived in. You guys have all seen the old house. This is a new place I live in now. I moved here in November. And they had left a note on my door that said, hey, you need to get a hold of us. So at that time, I had no idea what to do. I just knew that I was in fucking trouble because I was on drugs. So I called CPS and they were like, you need to come down here and submit to a drug test. Now, I do want to say this for anybody out there that this happens to, like, you don't have to do this. You can say no and you can get a lawyer and you can protect yourself and you don't have to do what I did. Okay. I did not understand. I thought that I had to go down there or else they would come and steal my child away. I did not understand the ins and outs of Child Protective Services when all this began. But at the end of the day, Child Protective Services entering my life is what catapulted me into getting sober. So I'm grateful for that. Okay. What was done to me though, and the way my case was handled now that I've been sober for a long time and I understand CPS and I know the legalities of things, me and my husband got screwed. When I submitted to those drug tests, I gave CPS a case to build on me because they had nothing. All they had was hearsay and allegations. And so I went to them thinking, they're here to help me. Let me voluntarily give them all this information so they can help me because I want to get help. I want to go to treatment. I want to be a better person. And so that's what I did, not knowing that that's not what they gave a fuck about. You know what I mean? So long story short, with CPS, they ended up telling me and my husband that they were going to put a protection plan in place, which meant that my husband would stay home and work and do outpatient. I would do inpatient, and my mother and father-in-law could take care of my son while I was in treatment, right? And that was the agreement. I was like, okay with that. My son was not even 1 year old. So I started looking and I found a treatment center that would take me because I had private pay insurance at the time. And so I was an assistant manager for a McDonald's, so I had insurance. Okay. So I was getting ready to go into this treatment center and CPS called and said, we changed our mind. We're coming over and we are going to have you sign these papers because we're going to take your son. We're going to remove your son from your care. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand why. Because I thought we had agreed that my mother and father-in-law would be able to take them and that my husband would do outpatient and I would do inpatient. And it just was all happening so fastly. And they were like, no, if you don't understand, you're going to bring him to us today or we'll come to your house with the police. And so I was like, okay. And I had to be in detox. Like I had to go to detox that day. I had treatment lined up for the following Monday, which was about 5 or 6 days away from that day. And so I was like, I didn't understand. I said, I felt like I was backed up into a corner. So I agreed to bring my son to them and hand him over to some stranger. I didn't even know this lady. She could have not even worked for CPS for all I knew. She could have been a complete stranger. All I knew is that she said she worked for CPS and we were at the CPS building and I had to give my son to them or they were going to call the police on me. So I packed my son's bags and I took him and I gave him over to this lady I didn't know. And I said to my mother and father-in-law, please get Nate so he can come home with you guys. I want my son to go with my mother and father-in-law. And my mother and father-in-law stayed at that office filling out paperwork to take custody of my son. So I was in detox, and I get a phone call on my second day in detox from my father-in-law, and he tells me they won't let us take Nate. And I was like, why? And he said, because they said we're too old. You have to understand, my mother and father-in-law were only 60 years old. They just had moved into a beautiful brand new home with a fenced-in backyard. It was the only reason why my son didn't go with my mother and father-in-law is because CPS wanted to put my son in foster care so they could get paid. Straight up, that is exactly 100% the reason. There's no other reason to deny the next of kin who is responsible, who has jobs, who loved my son, who my son knew them. All he knew was me, my husband, and his Gigi and Papa. Because at the time, my mother and father lived in New York. So you can imagine, I'm in detox and they're telling me that my son has to go to foster care. Okay. Not to mention that my son's birthday is July 4th. And it's July 3rd when they call me and tell me that my son has to go to foster care. So I'm in detox and I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, fuck this shit. I'm leaving. Right? I'm leaving. I'm going to go get my kid. I don't care what I have to do. I'm out of here. And I went into the office to talk to April. Now, it's so funny how God works. He works in mysterious ways. And at the time, I didn't believe it was God because I was mad at God because I felt like he had abandoned me. But when I went into that detox, there was a woman there named April. And I knew April. I knew her from being in treatment back in 2009 and 2010 when I got out of prison. I had went to treatment at a place called RCA, which is Recovery Centers of Arkansas in Little Rock. And so I met April at RCA. So when I came in, I was like, oh, fuck this shit. I'm out of here. I'm leaving. April stopped me and she said, come sit in here with us. And I sat there and I talked to them, and they were just the front desk girls at the detox, you know, but she helped me to make the decision to not leave. So on my third day in treatment, they had taken me they gave me one Suboxone pill the first day of detox, half a Suboxone pill the second day of detox, and a quarter of a Suboxone pill the third day of detox. And then I didn't get anything else after that. And I stayed in detox for 5 days, and it was a Sunday when I was going to get to go home, right? And I remember them telling me, yeah, you get to go home today. You're going to check out, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hold up. It's Sunday. And I cannot leave this treatment center. Like, I need to go from treatment directly into residential treatment. Like, I know myself. I know what I'm all about. And I know I will get high if I leave this treatment center for one day and then have to be back on Monday, right? So April pulled some strings for me. And they let me stay one more night in the treatment center. And I was so grateful. I mean, who wants to stay one more day in detox? But I had to, you guys. Like, you don't understand. Like, if I didn't, I would have ended up fucking up, right? I still ended up fucking up, but we'll get there. So I get to the treatment center on Monday morning. It's a beautiful treatment center, okay? It's called Oasis Renewal Center. And we had our own cabins, you guys. I had never been to a treatment center like this before. I had always gone to like state-funded treatment centers. And so this treatment center was kind of bougie, you know? And so we had a chef. We had our own little cabins to sleep in. Like, just 2 people slept in a cabin. Like, it was pretty fucking nice. And there was like a lake, or they called it a lake or a pond, but it was like a lake. That's how big it was, you know? And they had like trails and running water and hiking and just all kinds of cool shit, you know? And so when I got there, I felt so out of place. I felt like I said, I had always been like in state funded treatment centers. My mom and dad are not rich. You know what I mean? I don't come from like a lot of money or anything like that. And so here I was in this residential treatment center where like a lot of the people that were in there, they were there because their job sent them there, you know, or, you know, it was just, I was a lot different. Okay. I was the girl who used drugs while she was pregnant with her son. You know what I mean? And there wasn't girls in there like that. There was barely people that had a problem with like, nobody shot up. I think I was one of the only people that had ever shot up. Me and Darren, my friend Darren. Okay. Everybody else in there was kind of like straight laced. You know what I mean? And I was like, damn. So when I got there, I remember it was my first day and I walked into the group room to sit down and like kind of meet everybody. And I was hysterical. I was crying because I was worried about my son. I hadn't got to talk to my son. I hadn't got to see my son in a week. It had been a week. And my son was a baby. He had, you know, he had just turned 1. And so I walked in and they were having like a little group, and the teacher of the group sat down and she asked me to introduce myself, and I introduced myself and I was crying. I was very emotional about losing custody of my son and being in treatment. And that's when this woman said to me, her name was Miss Rita. I'll never forget it. She said, "You didn't love your son. If you loved your son, you wouldn't be in here." And it fucking really hurt to hear somebody say that to me. And I still don't believe that what she said to me was correct. I don't believe that I didn't love my son. I believe that I was struggling with a debilitating disease. I believed that I had been in and out of abstinence-only recovery places, and that's all they ever tried to teach me was how to do the 12 steps, pray, meditate, read my big book, take other people through the motherfucking steps, and go to meetings. And so imagine coming in, sharing that your son has gotten taken away from you and you're hysterical basically. And the therapist in there tells you that you're just an attention seeker and you're just here because you want to run the group and get all the attention and you don't really care about your baby. And I was just like, it hurt to hear somebody say that to me. I'd never had anybody say that to me in my life. You know what I mean? I've always like, I've never am, when I'm upset about something, it's never disingenuous. Like I'm a very emotional person. And so I immediately stopped talking. I wasn't going to, I wasn't going to share anymore. I shut myself off. I quit talking. I quit sharing with everybody. And that's when my husband came up to see me because I had to go to a court date the next day. And the next day, while I was out to court with my husband, I manipulated him into getting me Xanax, you know, and I started taking Xanax while I was in treatment behind the treatment center's back. Well, I thought it was behind their back, but I was so high they knew. So while me and Neil are out at court, I come back and I am gone off these bars, right? So gone that evening I was eating Cheerios, you guys, and I fell asleep in my Cheerios. So they're on to me. They know that something is going on, but they just can't figure it out, right? And so they can't figure it out because I've been testing hot for benzos since I got there because I am not a skinny when I went into treatment this last time because I just had my son a year prior, and I think I was like 165 pounds, which is not fat, but I wasn't really skinny, you know? And so I always struggled with getting benzos out of my system. Like they would stay in my system for like 40 days, right? And so they were kind of like, oh, well, you know, it's going to take a while for these benzos to get out of her system. So they were giving me a pass, but the behavior plus the fact that I was still testing positive for benzos was like, I laugh now, but you know, anyway, so it was a Friday night. We were all in the druggy buggy. That's what we called it back then, was the druggy buggy. It's the big white van that they take you to the meetings in. Okay. and they were taking us to an AA meeting, which I knew they were going to take us to this meeting. So I called my little husband up from the meeting. I said, hey, I'm at Cosmo. Drop some Xanaxes off underneath the tree, underneath the rock. You'll see what I'm talking about when you get there. Click. And so I hung up and I was like, yeah, when I get back, I'm going to have my Xanaxes, right? We leave that fucking meeting, you guys, and we're driving back to the treatment center. And as we pull into the fucking treatment center driveway, guess who's pulling out? My husband. He was my boyfriend at the time, Neil. Neil's pulling out, looking like fucking busted. She might as well say busted across the fucking forehead, you know? And so, oh man, it was fucked up. Like I told you before, I was in there with like me and Darren were like the two, and I hate to use this language, but I'm just going to say it because I'm calling myself this. Me and Darren were like the two junkies, but like everybody else there was like an alcoholic, or they were sent there because their job told them they had to do it because they got caught smoking weed, you know, like that kind of thing. So everybody was looking at me like, Nicole, isn't that your husband that just pulled out? We're going to go tell on you. And that's exactly what they did. They ran and told on me so fast my head was spinning, honey. And the next thing I know, the director and owner of the treatment center is standing in front of me with a Ziploc bag full of fucking blue Xanax footballs. And so I was like, oh shit, they're going to kick me out now. Well, it is what it is. Like, I'm going to get kicked out. Right. And so he said to me, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you this crystal. And he gives me this quartz crystal. It's his favorite quartz crystal, he said. And it's about this big, like it's a big ass quartz crystal, a really nice one, you know. And you could tell that somebody had gotten it out of the ground for him, but it was cleaned up real nice. You could see it was really clear, a beautiful quartz crystal, a big one. He said, I'm going to need you to walk around with this crystal. You have to take it everywhere you go. And before you speak, you have to raise the crystal and ask for permission to speak. Well, y'all know I ain't never been one to mince words, and I don't care if I have to lift the crystal up or what. I'm still going to fucking speak. So I was lifting that crystal everywhere I went. Speaking. The reason why I think they did this was to make me think before I spoke, right? To give me something to say, well, do I really want to say this, right? Which I think it might have helped a little bit, but anyway, I digress. I carried this crystal around with me for the next 2 weeks, raising it in class, raising it at groups, raising it in wherever I had to go to say something, right? And mind you, in this treatment center, they're not teaching me anything I don't already know. Okay. We're reading the first, 150 pages of the big book. Okay. I can fucking recite that shit backwards for y'all. Okay. I've been to 7 treatment centers by this time. And I had worked with like umpteen sponsors and taken people through the steps my damn self before. Okay. So they're not teaching me any new coping skills. They're not teaching me anything that is helping me other than the basic generic 12-step stuff that they teach in treatment centers. Okay. And so the only thing I feel like that was there that I feel like I really benefited from, and I'm just keeping it real with you guys, so that way when you're looking for treatment, you know, you can find what works for you. This treatment center had a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist's name was Dr. Michael Mancino. And Dr. Michael Mancino had sat me down and talked to me while I was still in treatment about getting on MAT treatment. And I told him, are you crazy? I would never get on Suboxone. People that are on Suboxone are just trying to stay high. They don't really want to be sober. That's just a way to get over on the system. And he said, okay. I just wanted to, recommend it or suggest it to you because I'm looking at your paperwork here and it shows me that, well, you've been trying to get sober for 10 years and haven't been able to put together 1 year. So, the evidence shows me that you don't know how to get sober and stay sober. But, if you don't want to do it, I understand. So he didn't poke me and try to make me do it. So for the last 2 weeks while I was there, I stayed on my good behavior, and they called my caseworker, which had changed. The first caseworker I had, she took my son and then she quit her job 2 weeks later. So I got a new caseworker, and this caseworker's name was Kawachi. Kawachi was a Black girl, and she actually was a child that was in foster care when she was younger. And what inspired her to become a caseworker was she wanted to help families reunify so that way children didn't have to go into foster care and get adopted out or stay in the system. Which me and her, when we met, we were on the same level, right? Because I was all about that. I was about working to be better, to reunify with my son. And when I tell you guys, the first woman who took my son didn't give a fuck, okay? She didn't give a fuck about me or my husband or my son. She gave a fuck about meeting a quota and then getting her ass on out of there, okay? But Kawachi, she cared. She cared about seeing me and my husband reunified with our child, and she saw that we loved our child deeply. I loved my son so much that I had to not see him for 30 days because while I was in rehab, every time I would go to visit him, I could not stop crying. And so what was happening is my son didn't want to come to me. He didn't want to be held by me. He only wanted to go to his dad because I could not stop crying. I was hysterical. And so every time I would go back to rehab after trying to have a visitation, it was becoming counterproductive to me, my sobriety and me staying sober and me getting through the benzo withdrawal and me getting through actually staying the course and not leaving. So I had to say, I can't see my son anymore, Neil. You have to go for me. So Neil picked up the pace and he picked up the slack for me while I was in treatment because, like I said, my baby wouldn't even come to me. So it came time for me to graduate treatment, and I'm still waiting for them to kick me out. They haven't given me an answer on whether or not I'm allowed to stay or not, right? And my 30 days is up. And so that's when my caseworker, the owner of the treatment center, the clinical supervisors, all the doctors and the psychiatrists and the therapists that work there and the nurses, they all came together and they said, you know, we hope you realize that we didn't kick you out because we want you to have a chance to be with your son. We want you to have a chance to fight for your child. And so I was so grateful and so thankful. And I left out of there and I hit the fucking ground running. Now, remember, all they taught me about was to go out and get a sponsor and go to meetings and all that, right? So I did what they taught me. I got a sponsor. I had a sponsor before I ever left the motherfucking building, okay? I got this lady, I'll never forget it. She came to one of the meetings because we would have meetings in the treatment center. She came to one of the meetings and her name was Kathy. And she said, my name's Kathy and I'm a pill popper or something like that. And she was like a 50-year-old woman, not even 50, 65-year-old woman. Okay. She's older than me, like 30 years older than me. She's like, my name's Kathy P and I'm a pill popper. And I was like, oh, bitch, that's my bitch right there. I'm a pill popper too. And so I ran over to her and I was like, will you please be my sponsor? I have to have a sponsor before I leave here. Right. And she was like, I'll be your temporary sponsor. And I was like, okay, girl, whatever. I don't care. Just be whatever I need you to be. Okay. So I get out of treatment. I call her right away and I'm like, I'm out of treatment. I'm getting a job. I need to get in a meeting or I'm going to go get high. Right. I know myself. Neil picks me up and on our way home, he breaks it to me that he got on Suboxone while I was in treatment. And I was, what do you mean you got on Suboxone? He said, I got on Suboxone. I was like, why would you do that? Don't you know that being on Suboxone is just trading addictions? Don't you know that if you're on Suboxone, you're not really sober? And that's when Neil sat me down and he's like, listen, I've been trying to get sober for over 20 years. And he's like, the only time I've had any kind of success was when I was on some kind of medication and in therapy, right? And I really had never thought about that. You know, I'd been trying to get sober for over 10 years and had never been able to have any success in it either. And so I kept on wondering why I kept trying to do it like that. And I wasn't having success with it. But the reason why I kept trying to do it like that is because that's what people told me I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? And so if you're not ever being taught that there's another way to do it, then you're just going to keep trying to do it the way they taught you how to, right? And so that's what I did. And so when Neil told me he had got on Suboxone, it kind of like, it piqued my interest, right? But I was like, no, I'm going to call my sponsor, go to my meetings, read the book, big book, pray and meditate, and I'm going to do this, right? Well, it was probably like a week into being out of treatment, and I was fucking struggling. Okay, I was white knuckling it, y'all. Like, I'm telling you, like, I was barely fucking hanging on by a thread. You know, I was tripping. And I was looking over at my husband, and he's working overnights at Kimberly-Clark. Like, it ain't nothing but a thing. And I'm like, all alone, sleeping in my bed at night because, you know, Neil's at Kimberly-Clark working overnight. Nate's in foster care. My mother and father-in-law moved into their brand new house back in May. So I'm all alone in this big 2-story house, crying myself to sleep every fucking night. And I'm thinking, okay, I could call the crack man, and the crack man could come over and we could smoke crack all night in the living room and Neil would never know. Or I could go over to the towers and I could get high and shoot meth and then try to hide it from Neil. But he would probably find out. Like, I'm going through the motions of like, what can I do that he won't know? Well, I had a friend. Her name was Jennifer. And me and Jennifer would talk on the phone all the time. And Jennifer was still in her active addiction. Okay, now this is my first 6 months of sobriety. So y'all got to understand, I was still had people around me that I shouldn't have around me, right? And I was thinking, oh, I could do Xanax and Neil would never know, right? Well, I don't act on it. I'm still just kind of white knuckling it. And then I said, I told Neil, I said, I'm really struggling. Like, I'm white knuckling it over here. And I'm thinking about how I can get out and go get high without you knowing. And so he goes, why don't we go see Dr. Mancino? Because Dr. Mancino, the doctor from the treatment center, just happened to be my husband's sub doctor, y'all. And so I was like, okay, let's go see Dr. Mancino, right? So we pull up at UAMS to see Dr. Mancino, and I'll walk in the door and he's like, oh, look who it is. It's the girl who was mad because her best friend called CPS on her and saved her life. And I'm like, I fucking hate this dude. You know what I mean? I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, why are you fucking being like that, Dr. Mancino? I was so mad. And I was like, fuck off. He was such a fucker. And I was like, hey, what's up, man? And he was like, what are you doing here? I thought you weren't going to do Suboxone because it was trading addictions. And it was just taking the easy way out. And I told him, I said, listen, it's either fucking me trading addictions, taking the easy way out, or I'm going to fucking go out and get fucked up and get high and end up dying and losing custody of my son. I need help. And he said, listen, I just want you to see what I see. And so he sat me down and he said, he pulled out my chart, which had all my background, my prison stint, all the sober livings I had been to, all the residential treatments I had been to, all the times I had tried to get sober on my own. Like, it was a very, very thorough background because they had done an assessment on me early on when I came to the treatment center. And I told them my whole fucking life story up until that point, basically. I told them about all the drugs I have done. I talked about using drugs after people that have hepatitis C. I talked about shooting up and using fucking water from places that was not sanitary because I didn't have running water in the house that I lived in. So we were shitting outside in a bucket. Like, I told them everything. Right. And so he said, I just want you to see what I'm saying. He said, look at all these times that you've tried to get sober. Each time you make it about 6 months. Okay. 6 to 9 months is your best. And then you fall off for like 2 or 3, 4, even 5 years is your longest stint of falling off. Right. And I was like, yeah, because that's what I do. It's my baseline is to, stay sober 6 to 9 months, fall the fuck off. Right. And so I was like, I see. And he said, all I'm saying is if you've tried for this long, 10 years, because I started really trying to get sober in 2005 and going in and out of treatments, and it was 2015. He said, if this has not worked for this long, why not try something different? Why not add something to the regimen that you have been trying to work this whole time, which was the 12-step regimen, right? And he suggested, why not adding therapy and medication to your regimen, right? And so that helped me to see the vision and to understand that, like, I was adding these things to what I was already doing that could enhance my chances at staying sober, right? And that made sense to me. And so I was like, okay, I understand. I see. I'm willing to try it. Now, y'all have to understand something. At this time, I was sober for 30 days without any opioids in my system. So I was going in and getting put on Suboxone at 30 days sober from opiates. And so when I got on Suboxone, it knocked me the fuck out. I was like, sleeping. I'm not talking about being buzzed. I'm not talking about nothing. I'm talking about, it knocked me out. Like, I was knocked out cold. I was sleeping all day long. It took me about 3 days of going through that really groggy sleepiness, right? Yeah, as soon as I'm done telling you all this, y'all can ask me anything, okay? So that 3 days, it took me about 3 days to get balanced out on it. And once I got balanced out on it, I started out on 8 milligrams, and I topped out at 12 milligrams, and that's where I stayed, okay? I stayed on 12 milligrams for 4 years. But let me just tell you about my first year being on Suboxone. So now I'm on Suboxone, and I'm an honest person, okay? Like, I'm just a tell-it-all kind of person, as you can see. I got diarrhea of the mouth, okay? I love to share with other people. I love to help people. Ever since I was a little girl, I loved helping people. It's part of me. I'm a helper. I have a helper's heart, And so, all the relationships I had up until I met my husband were all me trying to help somebody and save them from themselves. Before I met my husband, I was in an abusive relationship for 6 years with a man named LD. And when I met him, he was homeless. He didn't have a job. He was on probation. And when I left him, he had a home, a car. He was off probation. All his fines and fees were paid. Like, I would try to help people, especially people that I cared about, And so my first year sober, after working with my sponsor for 6 months, I felt comfortable enough to say, I want to say that I'm on Suboxone to my sponsor. Okay. I want to tell her because I think it's important to be honest about it. And so I went to my sponsor and I let her know that I was on Suboxone, and I was so scared because, for those of you guys that don't know, some people in 12-step programs are very judgmental of Suboxone treatment, okay? And they will tell you that you are not sober. They will tell you that your recovery is not valid. They will tell you that you might as well be on heroin or fentanyl or whatever your drug of choice was, right? And so I told my sponsor, and she didn't judge me. She didn't judge me. She didn't fire me. She didn't tell me that I wasn't sober. In fact, what she told me was, I'm on Xanax. And I said, what? She said, yeah, I have anxiety. I went to my doctor, and my doctor prescribed me Xanax for my anxiety. And when I tell you guys, I started crying my fucking eyes out, because here I was thinking like she was going to judge me and tell me that I wasn't sober and all this. And she said, we are not doctors. And she said, that is an outside issue from alcoholism. And if you being on medication assisted treatment helps you stay on the right path and helps you stay away from opioids, then I don't have no fucking business talking to you about that, because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a medical professional. And I learned so much from that lady right there, because she showed me so much support and never questioned me about it ever again. That was that. We hung it up, right? So anyway, me and her, she was my sponsor for the first year that I was sober. And then we ended up parting ways, and I started working with another lady named Christy. Christy and I had been in active addiction together for, oh God, years. Me and Christy, we used to buy, we did some stuff together. And she filled in to sponsor me until I found my next permanent sponsor, which was this lady named Jean. But anyways, I worked this 12 steps with Christy once and with Jean twice. And they both helped me so much in the fact of learning about taking responsibility for the way that I did things when I was in active addiction. And that's what I learned from the 12 steps, was about, being a better person, changing my behaviors, taking responsibility for the bad things that I did, making amends, making living amends with my family. Because one of the things that I really wanted to do at the beginning of my sobriety was I wanted to run back to my mom and dad and tell them how sorry I was. Because my mom and dad never turned their back on me. I always had a place to go if I was ready to get sober. I just chose to not stop using drugs. So they wouldn't let me come live with them. That's why they kicked me out when I was 18, because I was using substances and I wasn't coming home at night. And my dad was worried sick about me. I would stay gone until like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I would waltz on in higher than Cooter Brown, looking all crazy and shit. Right. So, I wanted to run back to my family and tell them how sorry I was and make it right, But that was something that I had always done with my family, was I had always ran back and said, I'm sorry, please forgive me. I'll be different this time. And so this time I knew that I had to do something different. I knew that I had to show my mom and dad that I was different. So I will never forget it. I had 1 year sober. And my dad called me. They were living in New York. And he said, me and your mother, we're going to send you 3 train tickets. 1 for you, 1 for Neil, and 1 for Nate. My dad's Italian, and he has like a real thick Brooklyn accent. He was born and raised there. And I said, okay. And he said, and we will see you all when you get here, And I was like, okay. So me and my son and my husband jumped on a train and took a train from Little Rock, Arkansas to Gansevoort, New York. Gansevoort is like right by Albany, up in the upstate New York area, like going towards Canada. And so it was the summertime. So it was beautiful. We went to Lake George. We went swimming. We had so much fun, but I'll never forget it when I got there. My parents knew I was sober. They could see that I was really sober. They could tell that I was really sober because of the way I talked, everything. And I think that's why they sent me that ticket. They sent me that ticket because it's easy to fool my mom and dad when I'm on the phone with them, but they needed to see me in person, And so they got to meet my little boy for the first time. Well, my mom met him when he was born, but my dad had never met my son. And so they got to meet Nate, and they got to meet my husband, and they had met Neil before when we were dating, but this was all kind of like fresh and new, And I'll never forget, my dad told me that he was proud of me. And the last time that I think I had ever heard my dad say that he was proud of me was when I was in high school and I had made basketball homecoming. I think that's the last time I heard him say he was proud of me, because that was around the same time where I started getting really bad off on drugs. And so hearing my dad tell me that he was proud of me was such a big deal to me. I felt so grateful that I was able to go up there and that I was able to stay sober. And that's when I sat my parents down and I shared with them about Suboxone. And I said, I'm on a medication that's helping me stay sober. And I showed them what it looked like. I taught them all about it. And at that point, I had just celebrated a year. So I had really started to get into learning about subs and helping other people that were struggling like me to get access to medication-assisted treatment. Because one of the things about where I live, it's just like a Bible Belt, right? And so a lot of the times it's just automatic for people to like try to pray for your addiction to go away, or for them to keep just throwing you into treatment and recycling you through rehab over and over and over and over again. And after you've gone to rehab about 7 to 10 times, you guys, you're not learning anything different. Okay. Everything you've gone in there for, you've learned already, right? And um, I wanted to be able to help other people not feel like I felt when I first got on subs and not feel alone, you know? And so we stayed with my mom and dad for like 2 weeks. I think we were up there for, y'all. It was so much fucking fun. And then we came back down to Arkansas and, you know, got back to doing what I was supposed to be doing, which was staying sober. Oh, I kind of brushed over how we got Nate back, didn't I? I guess that's kind of important. So during that first year, we were fighting for custody of my son back. This was probably like 5 months after we got Nathaniel back. We went to New York. During the process of getting my son back, I think that's really important for me to share with you guys. Like, I was jumping through hoops for CPS. Okay. Like, I was a perfect model client. Okay. Like, I didn't fuck shit up. Okay. I made every meeting. I did all the parenting classes they asked me to do. I got all the hair follicle tests they asked me to do. I got all the DNA tests they asked me and Neil to do. And they kept on running me through the ringer on these damn psychological evaluations. For some reason, this fucking attorney ad litem was trying to prove that I was not fit to be a mother because I was emotional. Okay. And I still am. And I always will be. And that's one of the best things about me is that I'm a softie. I'm an emotional person. I love people. I have a huge heart, right? That's literally what makes me so great at what I do, is because of how soft I am towards others, right? So, but that to them was a negative thing for some reason. And so they were trying to prove that I was somehow psychologically not fit to have my son. So when I tell you this woman had me take 3 psychological evaluations, you're only supposed to take 1, but she kept on trying to find new doctors to send me through to see if they would diagnose me with something. And they wouldn't. They wouldn't diagnose me with bipolar because I wasn't bipolar. The main thing that they would diagnose me with was depression and generalized anxiety disorder. And that's the only damn diagnoses I got from those psychological evaluations. That's it. That's it. Same with my husband. And so they were fighting me and my husband tooth and nail from us. And I could not understand why. Like, I still to this day don't understand why. I really don't. I really don't. And so it was probably like a month before we were supposed to get custody of Nate back. He had been sleeping over at our houses on the weekends. Every weekend I was able to go and meet with his, on Friday nights or Friday afternoon, I would go meet with his mom, his foster mom, and I would pick him up and I would bring him back to Little Rock with me and Neil, and he could stay the night with us Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday evening, I would take him back to his foster mom and he would do his school with his foster mom, right? So that's, sorry guys, I don't know who's trying to call me. So that's what we did. Well, it was like a month before we were supposed to close our case. We go to court and the attorney ad litem says, "Hey, Mercedes," she says, "they don't need to get their son back. They're on Suboxone and they're not really sober. They should not be able to get their son back until they've been off Suboxone for 6 months to a year." When I tell you guys, I was like, this bitch done fucked with the wrong motherfucking one, because that judge said, I don't know about that. And they said, we'll continue it, right? Bitch, when I came back to the next court date, I had my doctor, Dr. Mancino, the therapist, the nurses, everybody from the damn subclinic that could vouch for me and my husband being the model treatment clients in that fucking clinic. Never missed a payment, never missed a UA, never failed a UA, everything, right? And that's when I got to go up there and talk about how many years I had been trying to get sober through abstinence, 12-step based recovery only. And I tried medication and therapy and that it was actually working for me. And the judge ruled in my favor. And that day we got to take Nathaniel home. But when I tell you guys, it could have went a lot different. And I've seen it go a lot different for other people because of being on MAT treatment. And that's bullshit, dude. That's bullshit. That shouldn't even be a question. If you have a prescription from your doctor and you're coherent and fucking working your job and you're not fucked up on your medication, then there should not be anything said about it, right? So we won custody of Nathaniel back. And when I tell you guys, it was the best day of my life taking my, but I want to explain something to y'all. CPS scarred me for fucking life. To this day, when somebody knocks on my door, my heart drops down in my stomach. And I've been sober for 8 years. To this day, I'm just now starting to realize how they fucked me over and how they took advantage of me in a vulnerable position because I wanted help. I knew I shouldn't be using drugs and trying to be a mom. I knew that I needed to be sober. And so when what I thought was help showed up, I was all willing to make changes and admit to all my wrongdoings. So to this day, I have PTSD from my experience with CPS. And that is why when I share my story with you guys, I share with you guys that you do not have to answer the door. You do not have to submit to anything that they ask you for. Okay. And you can protect yourself. That is your right. Okay. It is your right to have treatment and privacy and allow your children to go stay with family. That's your right as a parent. And so it's really important that I talk about that because I see so many people getting taken advantage of inside of when they're struggling and they're vulnerable from addiction. It's easy to take advantage of a mother that's sick and struggling with addiction and scared that she's going to lose her child by hanging her child over her like it's a carrot to a horse. Okay. And that happens to so many other women. And so I know that using substances while I was pregnant was not good. I know that having my son and using substances when I was trying to parent him was not good either. But being a drug addict doesn't make me a bad person, and it doesn't mean that I don't love my son. Okay? It also doesn't mean that I can't parent or be a parent. Okay? A lot of people think that when a person's all fucked up on drugs that they're incoherent, and they're not. There are many people who use substances every single day and are working jobs, driving cars, going to meetings, and taking care of their children, right? Now, I was fucked up. I'm admitting that to you, okay? Because I think it's important that I'm honest about my story. But I was very fortunate because up until May of 2015, my mother and father-in-law lived with me. Okay. So I was only without my mother and father-in-law for the month of June. Then my son was taken from me 2 days into July, on July 2nd. So I was able to leave my child with my mother and father-in-law when I was unable to take care of him. Even in May and June, me and my husband would take my son to my mother and father-in-law's, and they would babysit my son. So I think it's really important for y'all to understand that. Like, my son, I would never take him out with me to the dope man's house, and I'm not shaming anybody that did. I'm just trying to let y'all know that I did have mother and father-in-law that supported me and my husband and helped us, So I utilized them a lot because of my substance use disorder, because I was fucked up. So, but a lot of people get taken advantage of, but I'm just trying to share with you guys, my experience. So, now I think it was probably like 2017, no, 16 and a half-ish when I went to my sponsor and I had really had this, like, I had this longing to want to help other people, right? Like I wanted to share my story and help people. I wanted to inspire people to make changes in their lives, whether or not it took AA, NA, MAT treatment, Celebrate Recovery, Refuge Recovery, fucking dropping it like it's hot, landing in the splits, twerking that ass, and hanging up upside down on a motherfucking split okay, on a handstand to stay sober. Like, I wanted to just inspire people to make change, right? And so I was talking to my sponsor about it, and I was like, what can I do to help other people? And she was like, why don't you go and share your story at the treatment center that you graduated from? And I was like, you know what? That's a motherfucking good idea, because I love public. I don't know if y'all had noticed that yet, but I like to talk a lot. I love to talk. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. So I called the treatment center. I was like, hey, what's up? It's me, Nicole. I'm an alumni. And I was wondering if I could come and share my story with the guys and the girls that are, in treatment still. And they were like, we would love for you to. And so I fucking took my little hot ass right on up there. And that was the first time I ever shared my story in front of people in a group, right? And when I finished sharing my story, there wasn't a dry eye in that room. I'm talking from the oldest man to the youngest woman was sobbing out, and so was I. And I remember I jumped down off the little podium thing and I said, group hug. And we all had a group hug. And I let them all know that they could call me anytime. And I gave everybody my cell phone number and told them that I was so proud of them for, coming to treatment to make changes in their lives. And I went and I walked out of there and I was high on fucking life. I felt so good. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to share my testimony to help other people, right? I can do that. That's something I can do. And so, I started to build a little platform on Facebook, and I got into the recovery community on Facebook, and some people had invited me to share my story over there. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do this. And that's where it all went sour. I was very open about being on Suboxone. I've never shied away from that part of my sobriety story. I think it's really important to be honest with people about that. And a lot of people in the Facebook 12-step recovery community shunned me and made fun of me and made memes about me not being clean, and pictures with me using a fucking Suboxone 8 milligram pill as a bar of soap, saying I'm not just fucking mean ass fucking shit. Okay. And I remember them kicking me out of one of their recovery groups because I was on Suboxone, and I was like, I'm out of here, dude. And I deleted my Facebook account. And I really stopped going to AA meetings. It was probably about 2017, about to be 2018. And I was really upset, man. And I was like, I don't believe in shaming and shunning people for their pathway to recovery. I don't believe in judging people because they need to take medication, right? It went against everything that I believed in my life, in my soul, in my heart. And so I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I got to make a difference. I wanted to make a difference. And so I came to YouTube. And I started making content online on YouTube. And we created a whole community on a channel called Real Talk Recovery. And there was 25,000 people on that channel, and we went live all the time, damn near every single day. And we would do MARA meetings, which is an amazing program for people that are utilizing medication-assisted treatment. MARA is Medication-Assisted Recovery Anonymous, and they are very accepting of all paths to recovery, and they are huge in harm reduction. And so I recommend everybody go to MARA. Everybody. It doesn't matter what kind of recovery you have. You would love MARA. If you love helping people, if you have a big heart, if you're non-judgmental like me, you'll love fucking MARA. You'll love MARA. So I started going to MARA and just going live every day on YouTube like a little nerd, y'all. I was over here making bacon and eggs. My little boy was like, 3 or 4 or 5 years old, running around the house with his best friends. And I would just vlog my life as a sober mom at home, right? Well, it was 2019, and I had been collaborating with Dr. B. A lot of you guys know Dr. B, but I met Dr. B because he came over to my YouTube channel one day and he was like, hey, we should do a video together. And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so me and Dr. B became friends. And so we started collaborating a bunch, and he started helping me learn more about Suboxone and Suboxone treatment. And in 2019, he called me on my cell phone. He said, what would you do if I offered you a job to come work with us? And I was like, I'd shit my motherfucking pants and say yes. And he was like, okay, just keep that in the back of your mind. And that was 19. And at that time, I was working at a place called Hallmark where I was just doing merchandising and stuff. And so I think I had maybe 1,500 subscribers on my YouTube channel. Well, then 2020 hit, and that's when I got the phone call from Austin that said, hey, we're going to onboard you. Let's get you started working for us. And I was like, okay. And they onboarded me, and I started just by answering the phones for, at the time, Dr. B had an outpatient program. And so I was answering the phones as a secretary, like connecting people that were looking for the outpatient treatment with the person who would and so I would talk to them, and then I would get them connected with the intake people for their outpatient, and I would be there as a support system because I'm a drug addict in recovery, right? So I loved it. I felt so fortunate to be able to be a part of that team. I looked up to Dr. B so much. I still do. He's a mentor to me. And as I stayed with them longer, they started adding more and more responsibilities to my role. And it all, that's where I've gotten to where I'm at today, where I do mainly marketing and social media management for the company that I work for now. But in 2020, you guys, the pandemic hit. Okay. And I had just started tapering on my Suboxone from 12 milligrams, and I was down to 8 milligrams. And people were relapsing because there was no community support. There was no fellowship for them to go and gather at, right? So there was a problem, and I saw the problem, so I solved it. And we started having meetings every single day online. And that's where my YouTube channel and the community that I built really blossomed. Because one thing about me is I'm consistent. And so I showed up. I showed up every single day, and we would do our recovery meetings. And over time, word got out, and people started inviting me on their channels. I got to go on Death's channel, Lockdown 23-1. And then my friend Andrew got me an opportunity to go on the Tamron Hall show and share about my struggles with binge eating disorder. And just little by little, these little opportunities started popping up for me, But all the whole time, I just stayed the course. I just stayed away from drugs and alcohol. Thanks, Brandy. I didn't use no matter what, right? Like when I would struggle and I would feel like wanting to get high, I would talk about it. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Okay. That is literally how I've stayed sober for as long as I've stayed sober, is because anytime I'm struggling, I go live or I call a friend and I talk about it. I tell on the way I'm feeling. And I used my addictive nature of being overkill with social media to my advantage. And I used all of you guys as support to help me stay accountable. And it worked. And I will be honest with you, this doesn't always work for other people. Social media can be toxic. It can harm you in your sobriety, right? But for some reason, I think a lot of what happened was I had laid the foundation, right? I had my therapist, I had my sponsors, I had Dr. B as my mentor, and then I to help me stay accountable, right? And I have used my social media as a literal virtual diary ever since. And I just share my pathway here with you guys and the things that have worked for me. And I've been able to go from being on 12 milligrams of Suboxone to tapering all the way down to about 0.5 milligram. That's where I'm at today. That's where I'm staying. That's where I feel good. I'm not worrying about what anybody else thinks about my sobriety or whether I should be off Suboxone or have I been on it too long. Like literally, I don't give a fuck what people think about me anymore. When I first started, I was very much influenced by what other people thought, very much influenced by the judgment of others. And it kept me sick. It kept me struggling. I have recently been able to taper off of Lexapro and Wellbutrin. And so the only medications I take now are my medications, Suboxone. That's it. That's it. And I was literally on those other medications for 6-7 years. I feel better in my mental health, better than I've ever felt. But there's a lot of things that I changed along the way that changed in my life that contributed to me being successful in my mental health medications. I would never recommend anybody to just go and get off your mental health medications. These are all things that I have slowly but surely worked my way up to and did them gradually over time. I seriously made mistakes in the past and tried to jump off my mental health medications cold turkey, and I fucking almost killed myself. Okay. It was horrible. And so I learned through experience and doing things the wrong way sometimes that the best thing for me to do was to take my time, go slow, talk with Dr. B, talk with my own personal doctor, and just work through what I was going through. And each day I would put a day behind me, right? Each day I would put a day behind me. And now my next goal, and that's how I stay sober, and that's how I work on things, is I set these large goals for myself. Now my new goal is changing this binge eating, this eating disorder and addiction to food that I have. Now what I'm doing is, that's my goal, is to cure that, to get better from that. And the way I am working towards getting better from that is by making small changes in my life over time, changes that I can actually make, that are obtainable things that I can do. Because the reason why I struggled in the past was because I would try to take things on and make huge changes all at once, and I wouldn't be able to maintain. And so now I give myself grace every single day. My goal is to make sure that I eat real food. That's the goal. I'm not cutting calories. I'm not saying no more sweets. My literal goal is to cook my own food. And I'm working really slowly towards that and making those changes. And I know from past experience with my taper off of my mental health meds, or with my Suboxone, with all the things that I've gone through, that setting myself up for success by doing little goals and just working towards them, not making a big spectacle out of it or vlogging it or documenting it. Because what will happen when I do that is I put pressure on myself, then I fall back, then I feel like a failure, yada, yada, yada. And I've just been working slowly but surely on making positive changes around my diet and exercise. So, yeah. Anyways, I don't know how I got there, but I really wanted to talk to you guys about, Nathaniel coming home and then my first couple of years of sobriety. Now, let me tell you about this, okay? And then y'all can ask me any questions y'all want to ask. So, like I told you, there was a time where I almost relapsed. You want the tea? Okay, listen up. First of all, you need to know that my husband relapsed in 2020. Big time. Okay. March of 2020, my husband decided he was going to smoke the crack-a-lacka. Okay. So he started smoking crack-a-lacka and taking Klonopin from a guy that worked in the meat department at Kroger. My husband was a assistant manager of a Kroger here in Little Rock for a long time. And so he was relapsed on the crack-a-lacka and the Klonopin. And I was stressing the fuck out because, well, my husband was relapsed and I'm trying to stay fucking sober. Right. So, yep, you remember. So my friend Jennifer, the one I told y'all about, all this time we had been friends on the phone, right? I didn't have her over to my house. We weren't like partying or anything like that, but she had benzos. So I called her one day, said, hey, could you bring me over some Xanax? I'll give you a sub, right? She's like, yeah. So she comes over and she brings me, I think it was like 3 or 4 blue football Xanaxes, right? Not the 2 milligram ones, but the 1 milligrams. So I put them in my wallet because I have devised a plan. I'm going to do the Xanax while my husband's asleep, so that way he don't know. So I'm going to be high on Xanax at night while everybody else is asleep. That evening, my husband had gotten home from work and I wanted candy or something like that, right? And so I said, go get me some chewy candy from the damn gas station. And he's like, okay, do you have any cash? And I'm like, yeah, I got $20 in my wallet. My husband goes to my wallet to grab the $20 out of my wallet, and lo and behold, there's the 4 fucking Xanaxes. I'm caught red-handed. And he's like, what the fuck, Nicole? And I'm like, dude, why are you what the fucking me? You've been smoking crack, dude. Like, can I get some relief? Like, you're smoking crack. Why can't I fucking do some shit? My husband takes up my fucking wallet, dumps it in the toilet bowl, and flushes the motherfucking toilet. They're gone. They're gone. Okay. And I'm crying because I'm like literally watching them go down the toilet bowl. All right. Thank God my husband flushed those. Thank God. Because if I had relapsed on Xanax, you guys, I don't know what it is about Xanax, but it fucking makes me all loosey-goosey and it makes me want to do other stuff. And I would have went straight to going back to the needle and I would have been shooting up meth. Okay. And it would have been a shit show. So my husband stayed in a relapse from March until December of 2020. And I don't mean like every single day. I mean, like there would be like 3-4 weeks where he would be sober, but then he would relapse again. So it was like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I was so depressed, y'all. My hair was falling out of the back of my head. Okay. Because I was stressing the fuck out so bad, worried about him every single day. And then one day I was on the phone with my friend, Ann, and she was like, basically, she was like, you're enabling him to continue using drugs because you are covering for him. And she was right, you guys. And let me explain to you what she meant. So my husband would get so high. Some days I would call his job and I would let them know he was sick and he couldn't make it because I didn't want him to lose his job because I didn't want him to drive up there and be looking high and then get fired, right? Or my husband would go and he would take so much money out of our bank account, we would go into the negative. So what did I do? I went and opened up a savings account and took all of our money out and would only leave enough in to like get gas and stuff like that. So that way I was saving him from bottoming us out on our finances. Another thing, he would be all fucked up and couldn't drive, right? So I would drive him and drop him off at work. I would take away his debit card so he wouldn't overdraft us. And I kept on doing these little things that were hindering him from fucking up and I was hindering him from his consequences. I kept saving him from the consequences of his actions, which would have been to bottom us out on our finances and us not be able to pay rent and bounce checks and all this motherfucking bullshit, crashing his car, losing his job, that kind of thing, right? I kept on inserting myself into the situation and Captain Save-A, ho, to the rescue, and pulling my husband's head out of his own ass so he wouldn't fuck us over, right? I was on the phone with one of my friends. Her name was Ann, and she was an older woman, and she had a lot of wise words. She's a very wise lady. And she said, you know, you are handicapping your husband by keeping him from experiencing the consequences of his own actions. And she was right. Because the second I decided to stop handicapping him and stop hindering him and stop helping him, guess what happened? He went to work so fucking high that he got fired from his fucking job. And guess what happened? He never used again after that. And it's been fucking 3 years. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? Are you kidding me? So you mean to tell me that this whole time all I had to do was stop fucking saving this motherfucker's asshole? Okay, you mean to tell me that all I had to do was like let him experience the consequences of his own motherfucking actions? What a fucking waste of 6 months I wasted fucking saving that motherfucker. Okay? And he's been sober ever since. His sobriety date's December 21st, 2020. December 21st, 2020. Addiction is crazy, man, because when you love somebody that struggles with addiction, you will do anything to help them. You will fucking throw in lifelines out there, baby. I was doing everything I could to help him to not fucking ruin his life and my life too, honey. Don't get it wrong. I was selfish as fuck. I didn't want him fucking up my life too, you know? And so please don't get it twisted. He directly affected my life. So a lot of the reasons why I kept inserting myself into the situation and saving his ass was because if I didn't, it ended up fucking me up too, you know? And so I'm not some fucking martyr over here. Like, I'm just being honest with y'all. Like, I didn't want my husband fucking my finances up because his finances are my finances. You know what I mean? So anyways, my husband has been sober ever since December 21st of 2020. And he will have 4 years this December. I'm celebrating 8 years today. And my life has never been better. My husband and I's relationship is amazing. We talk about everything. We are best friends. We don't fight at all, because we don't have nothing to fight about because we're both sober and we love each other. And our goal together is to make sure that our son has the best life and that he's happy and thriving and safe. And so because we both have the same goal, we both have the same want for our life to have healthy, happy, sober lives and our son to be happy and thriving and safe, we don't have any issues in our relationship. You know, when we were in active addiction, bitch, we fought all the time. We would argue and I would physically try to hurt my husband all the time because I was crazy as hell when I was high on meth. And I even pressed third-degree battery charges one time and it was all a lie because I was so high. Okay. And now we don't have any issues like that. And it's all because we're sober. We made amends to each other for the things that we did to hurt each other in active addiction. And we haven't repeated those behaviors since. I will tell you, there was no infidelity in our relationship. I never cheated on my husband and he never cheated on me. And I think that's really important for y'all to know because sometimes I don't think that's something you can come back from. I know for me, if my husband had cheated on me, I don't think I could stay with him. You know what I mean? That's just me and my husband. That's how we are. We love each other and we don't want nobody else having each other, you know? So, okay. So very proud of you and your husband. Oh, thanks, Amy. Thanks, Tammy. Thanks, Courtney. So now I will open up the conversation to, if you guys have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask me any questions. I'm an open book. Thank you, Kimmy. I love you too, girl. And I'm proud of you for getting vulnerable too and been making videos and shit. So you're doing the same thing. I'm very proud of you too. How did you find out about his relapse? Could you tell he was could I tell he was going to ahead of time? Okay. So the question is, she wants to know, how did I find out about Neil's relapse? And did I know he was going to relapse before that? Yes, I knew he was going to relapse. I could tell, I could smell it in the fucking air. And how did I find out? Well, let me tell you what happened. So my husband, so when we first got sober, like I told y'all in the beginning, my husband was working for a company called Kimberly-Clark, where he worked overnights. Okay. That job lasted like 6 months into our sobriety. And he said, fuck this shit. I can't do this. I need to be home with my wife in the bed in normal hours. So my husband got a job working for Fred Meyer Jewelry. Okay. Fred Meyer Jewelry is a jewelry store inside of fucking Kroger. Okay. And so he was a manager at this jewelry store. He worked there for like 2 or 3 years and then he was promoted to assistant store manager of the Kroger. Okay. My husband and I both work in management, right? We excel. We are the kind of people that we get in a job. We work hard. We are consistent. We are there on time and we're good workers. So we get promoted quickly. My husband got promoted quickly and he was working a lot of hours. This isn't a new one, but y'all haven't seen it in a while. He was working a lot of hours, like 65 hours, and he was getting paid salary. Okay. So they were really taking advantage of my husband. So my husband was really tired. And I kept telling him, Neil, you can't stay sober by just throwing yourself into your job. You have to find a balance between your work, your recovery, your family life, like your own personal time. And I really kept trying to stress this to my husband, and my husband wasn't hearing it. He didn't want telling him what to do with his sobriety. He didn't want to do meetings. He didn't want to get involved online like I was. He didn't want to do any of it. So he would just And so I finally just stopped, because what was happening was I was pressuring him to get involved in online stuff with me, trying to get him to come on here and share with you guys. And it was putting pressure on our relationship in a negative way. And so that's when I learned that my husband was going to have to find what worked for him in his sobriety on his own, and that I was the last person that was going to be able to help him with that, because he wasn't having it. Okay. So probably like 2 years into his job at Kroger as a manager, I started to realize that he was doing the same thing that I did when I worked at Kroger and I had tried to get sober in the past, which was I allowed my job to become my whole life, my personality, my sobriety, everything. I thought, at least I'm making money and I'm being responsible and I'm working hard, and this is going to be a distraction to keep me from wanting to use substances. Wrong. When you're working a stressful job, especially when you're managing other fucking people, it's going to make you want to fucking go out and find drugs. Okay. So that's what happened to my husband. And so everything would fall onto him, and he would end up doing all the work, because he's the nice guy. He's the cool manager. He's the one that you want to work on night shift with, because he's Mr. P. Mr. P's cool. You can go out and smoke a joint in the back of the fucking Kroger while Mr. P's there. He ain't going to write you up. You know, that kind of manager. And that was my husband's downfall. Hey, Jessica, in management and sobriety. So one day, one of the guys that worked in the meat department said, Mr. P, you look stressed. You want a Klonopin? And then I didn't hear from him all day that day. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I hadn't heard from him. It's like 10 o'clock at night. Usually he'll call me like 2 or 3 times during his work shift, right? And so I call up there. And the moment I heard his voice, I knew he was high. I said, you are on one.com. What the fuck? And he's, no, I'm not. His little voice will go into a high-pitched tone when he's high. And I'm like, Neil, we have been together for like, at this time, it was like 8 years. So, you know, I'm like, we've been together for almost 10 years, motherfucker. I know when you're fucked up. And he denied it. He denied it. But when he came home, that's all I had to do was see his eyes, and I knew. And he would go back and forth with me, denying it, lying to me, just everything. And I'm fucking pulling, you know, the damn bank receipts showing him he just took $600 out of our bank account and smoked crack with it. Okay. And so like, I am like, and he is steadily telling me what I'm seeing is not really happening. Right. And so I quit confronting him about it, because I knew. And I literally started making it to where he only had like $100, right? Like because I was having to do that, because if I left all the money in there, he would have spent it all, right? And so it was almost like I was allowing him an allowance to hang himself. You know what I mean? But that's how I found out, and that's how I found out is I could hear it in his voice. How do you and your husband deal with guilt and shame? I'm in therapy and it's still so hard. I work on coping with feeling overwhelmed currently. I'm asking because I relapsed when my son was 2. I'm 4 months recovering now, but my hubby still makes me feel bad by saying he can't even fathom how I even did it when we already had our son. Oh, see, that's not healthy for him to be saying that to you. Like so I don't say those things to my husband. Like, I understand why he relapsed. He relapsed because he was working. He was overworked and underpaid and stressed out and struggling. And he had no support system except for me. And he didn't want me to be his support system. You know, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, a lot of times when you're in a couple relationship and the, you know, guy or girl gets sober, they don't want their significant other to be their, you know, recovery sponsor or the recovery mentor or whatever, because it causes problems in the relationship. They have to find their own thing that works for them, right? And so I will tell you, at the beginning, I was very mad at my husband, and I called him a junkie and a piece of shit father, and I told him that he was choosing drugs over me and his son, and did he not love us? If he loved us, he wouldn't be doing drugs to us, right? But what happened was, I had a moment of clarity, and I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I was seeing myself telling myself those things. How could I sit there and call the father of my son a junkie piece of shit father that didn't love me and was choosing drugs over our son, when I literally did the same thing when I was in active addiction? I chose drugs over my son's drugs while I was pregnant. I gave birth to my son high on methamphetamine, you know? And so it was like reality slapped me in the face and made me realize what a piece of shit I was for judging his ass, you know? And so, but that's because I was working on my recovery, and I was working with other people, and I was in therapy. And so if you're asking what I do and how me and my husband have been able to get through what we've gone through, a lot of it is on my part because I've been in therapy all these years. My husband has been in and out of therapy, and he's tried different things. But a lot of it is because of me changing my behaviors. And so I don't shame my husband for relapsing. We talk openly about it because I'm able to use it to help other people on my channel and stuff. But I encourage my husband to stay healthy and do better. And I let him know how proud I am of him every single day for staying sober. I let him know how much I appreciate him for taking care of our family. We both work full time, but I make more money than my husband at this moment in time, but he usually makes more money than me. Okay. And so usually he is the breadwinner, as in making more. But that doesn't even matter. We both come together and we both contribute to the relationship on the same level. We both put in together. I don't depend on him. He doesn't depend on, we depend on each other, and we work as a team. Everything we do is as a team. There's no, oh, Nicole has her own, I have a little savings account, but it's to protect our family. It's not like I'm going behind his back and doing all these things to try and like be with. We work as a team together. We talk about everything that we go through. We talk about everything that we do financially. I don't hide anything from my husband. All the opals I buy, I tell him all about it. And I think that's why our relationship has done so well in sobriety, is because we are both honest. Even like when he does shit that pisses me off, like when I piss him off is when I spend $400 on a new opal ring. When he pisses me off is when he buys a $400 new machine gun or whatever it is, because him and my son go to the shooting range together, and that's like their father-son bonding thing, right? And so that shit pisses me off, but we work and we bend and we mold to each other's, things that we struggle with. And I think that's what makes our relationship so great, is that we don't expect perfection from each other, right? We're just trying to make it. We're just trying to stay on the right path and help each other and not hurt each other, And so that outside support and being able to talk to other people, Darcy, has really, really helped me with my husband. But if your husband's shaming you for your relapse and stuff, like that's something that's going on inside of him, that he feels like he should be shaming you for that. If he's well educated on the disease of addiction, then he would understand you use substances and relapsed after having your son. It doesn't make you care less about your child. It doesn't make you less of a mom. Okay. That is an issue that he has. Maybe secretly deep down inside, he wishes he could relapse. Maybe he's jealous because he felt like you were able to get out and get relief, and he doesn't feel like he can. I used to feel jealous of my husband because he relapsed and I didn't. And I felt like, well, he got to go out and get high. He got to get the relief. And that pissed me off. And I had a resentment towards him for that, but not anymore. But I did for a long time. I was angry at him because I felt like he got to escape reality and I didn't. Right. But now I realize that it's a gift that I didn't go through that, and that I feel fortunate that I haven't struggled with that, right? Because I know how much guilt and shame I feel about using substances while I was pregnant and all the struggles I had then, I can't imagine how much guilt and shame I would have if I relapsed, while my son was here and all that stuff. Because I struggle still forgiving myself to this day. What advice would you give someone who's been having daily cravings? So, okay, I know that. So I feel like I know you, Kimmy, and I know that you work a lot. And I saw you comment about what I said earlier about Neil. And so maybe if you're having daily cravings, like something is going on, like that's your brain telling you, I need to take a break. I need more support. I need more self-care. I need daily connection with my family and my loved ones. I need diet and exercise. Like, what it's telling. I'm not saying you need diet or exercise, but you know what I'm saying? I'm saying that your mind and your body is telling you something that you're thinking about using because you need or want relief from something. Okay. And I know from my own experience, when I used to work all the time, like you work all the time, especially outside of the home, that I would get overly tired, overwhelmed. I would smush down my feelings. I would smush down, like I wouldn't allow myself to be tired. I wouldn't allow myself to have days off. I wouldn't allow myself to do self-care days like I do now and soak in the tub with the bubble bath and make my bomb ass steak I made today with the fucking mushrooms and baked potato and the broccoli and all that. Like I was real hard on myself back then. And that's why I would relapse, because I would be going. And then I would burst. It was like a emotional barometer. It was like it would just go up and up and up and up and up and up until like a volcano. Well, thanks so much for your insights. Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. I buy boulder opals, pipe opals, boulder and pipe, and I really love dark opals, like the coloring. I'll show you my other opals, but this one right here is a pipe opal from Australia. And it's got pink and purple and blue, and it's just really pretty. And then this one is also a pink pipe opal. It's almost crystal pipe opal. I'm behind, so I hope this isn't a repeat question. Since little Nate is so perceptive, was he able to tell that there was something off about your husband during his relapse? I knew somebody was going to ask that. Yes. And I tried so hard to protect my son from knowing that his dad was using drugs. And I did a good job, and I worked my ass off at it, but there was times where I was unable to get my son asleep before my husband came home, and he would be awake and his dad came in. And I remember one time in particular, back in 2020, this is, years ago now, where my husband had fallen asleep on the toilet. I say falling asleep, but was nodded out on Xanax. And Nathaniel went in there and, Mom, something's wrong with Dad. And Nate was probably like 5, almost 6 when that happened. So, yeah. I've pretty much been a silent viewer of yours for a few years now, and just wanted to let you know how much you have truly helped me and so many others. Oh, thank you so much, Rachel. I appreciate that, for real. Hey, Billy. What's up, babe? Thank you. Hey, what's up, baby? And here's the thing, I think I haven't had cravings to use substances, I haven't had cravings for opioids in years. Okay. And I truly believe that, it's because I'm on Suboxone. But when I do have thoughts to use, it's never like opiates or benzos. It's always stimulants. Because in my mind, you guys, and this is me being honest with y'all, in my mind as a person in recovery, I feel like I could still take stimulant medications and be productive, right? And so I don't take stimulant medications, but I'm just sharing with you guys. Hey, hold on. You guys on TikTok, my phone is about to die right here that I'm on this TikTok with. So if y'all would like to come over and further the discussion with us, we are over on my YouTube channel, which is called Nicole's Accountability. So if you guys would like to come on over, just click the link in my bio, and there will be a link to my YouTube channel on my Beacons account, and you can come over and continue the live stream with us. But I just don't want this phone to hang up on you guys and y'all to think I just hung up on y'all. So come on over, and I hope you guys enjoyed me sharing my story over here on TikTok with you as well. But we're going to keep it going over on YouTube, okay? All right. Bye, y'all. Okay. So maybe that's something that I need to, no, I know it's something I need to work on. My want to be able to take stimulants, like for ADHD, for my mental health, for energy in general, has been something that I struggle with. Like I feel like I would be so much better if I could take a stimulant medication. And it's because in the past, I've had such great success with them, with taking medication that is like stimulant, you know what I mean? Not methamphetamine, okay? But as a person in recovery, I also know that I need to protect my sobriety, and not do that, because I do feel like if I did do that, it could be a negative thing and I could end up overtaking them. So that's why I stay away from them. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to take stimulant medications as prescribed. It will start out as prescribed, but I know me and I will overtake them. So that's really one of the only things that I struggle with having cravings for is stimulants. So, yeah. I have to pee. I'm sorry. Hey, Julie, thank you for that. I appreciate you. If y'all have any other questions, y'all are more than welcome to ask. Really, Sandra? I'm sorry. Can y'all hear me still? Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody can hear. Okay, I'll flush the toilet in a second. Ooh, my legs got sore from sitting on that thing the way I was sitting on them. Yeah, now I just take my Suboxone and do that, and that helps me, and I stay sober, and I stay away from the other stuff. Maybe one day I can find something that helps me with my ADHD that's non-stimulant, you know? Yeah, if you hate stimulants, I don't think you'll have any issues, Kimmy. I like them too much. I like them. I enjoy that feeling, you know? And that's why my motives behind taking stimulants would be the wrong motives. I would be doing it to because I know how I like the way they make me feel, you know? No, I don't have any withdrawal symptoms on my subs. I'm good to go. I am good to go, baby. Now, when I was on the 1/4 milligram, I did. That's why I went up to half. Because, honey, I could not. I was going to bed at night and waking up in the morning, and I was being like, I was not feeling good. Really, Jessica? Thank you. I'll look it up, honey. I appreciate that. I mean, honestly, I think most people who have struggled with methamphetamine addiction, you know, would deep down inside, if we enjoyed it, would love to be able to just be on a stimulant medication, like as a form of MAT. But that doesn't mean that we need to be, you know. But I know not everybody's like me, and some people can take it and they'll be just fine. But I just don't think it's safe for me. Maybe in a couple of years when I get older, I don't know. We'll see. Ooh, my legs. I was sitting on that thing with my legs opened wide like I was on a horse almost, y'all, and it literally feels like I was riding on a horse's back. Are you sleeping? Can I show them something if I turn on the light? Okay. So one of you guys said that you wanted to see my opal collection. So I'm going to show y'all. Oh, like I said, I got sore because I was sitting a weird way. So I have many opals. Okay. Let me show y'all. Oh, sorry. I guess I can't show you like that. Okay. This is my little ring holder area. And I want to show you guys one of my newest opals that I got. And it's a dark opal from Australia. And I don't even think y'all can see really how beautiful it is. But it's almost like glows. Okay, and so as you can see, the base of the opal is dark. That's why they call it a dark opal. They also have black opals. Black opals are the rarest of the opal family. And this one is just stunning. So that's one of my most recent purchases. Then I also have this one, which is a dark crystal opal. And it's kind of see-through. But you can see how it has a line right down the middle of it. And one side's like the other side's like a crystal teal blue color. And so those two are some of my most favorite opals. Then I have this opal, which looking at it, you're like, is that really an opal? This is a Coober Petty opal, which I think is in Idaho. I'm not sure. But it's supposed to be real. I question it though. But the people I bought it from said it was real. I need to have it tested and see. Then this is the opal that my son got me for Mother's Day. It is a boulder opal with pink like diamond thingies. But it's gorgeous and has like flashes of pink and yellow and green and blue and all the beautiful colors. And then my favorite opal is my opal necklace. And this opal is very special to me. It's my most expensive opal. And you can see from the plays of color why it's so expensive. You see those flashes of red, yellow, purple, Christmas tree green. Yeah, that's a good opal right there. So that's my most favorite and prized opal. Right? I know, Banana. It's fucking gorgeous. That opal on its own was that was a $1,400 opal. That's the most I've ever spent on an opal. And probably will ever spend on opal, but that was like just stunning to me. And I had to have it. I had to fucking have it. So, Neil's laying down, so I'll get out of here. Me too. That's why I'm obsessed with opals. No, I wear silver and gold, but I wear white gold. Or I don't have like gold. I need to get some gold because honestly, I love the way it looks on my skin, but I just always went with white gold. That's what my wedding set is in. So I wanted to try this mochi with y'all. Have y'all ever had mochi before? Maybe that's why I've been doing so good lately, Kimmy, is because of my opals. So we're going to try mochi, and then we're also going to try a Mexican popsicle, okay? So this mochi is cookies and cream mochi. For those of you guys that know, mochi is like rice dough. With ice cream in the middle. And it's good. But today, first time I ever tried mochi. Nate doesn't like it. You don't like the mochi, do you?
No, it's disgusting. Are you live?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
You want to say hi?
A picture there? Sure.
Mm-hmm. Come say hi.
Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's yeah.
Did you have a popsicle, or
I just had a little bit of spaghetti.
did you have a Klondike bar? Mm.
What's that?
Mm-mm. Mm-hmm.
Are you doing a mukbang? You should do a mukbang.
Mm-hmm.
No, you gotta be like.
Mm-mm. What? Oh, no.
I want to try a random food.
What?
It's like mystery food. I want it to taste like a.
Do you want a Klondike bar?
That's right.
Or do you want a popsicle?
Whatever the thing is, Klondike.
Take it to you, Nate.
Huh? I know. There's something.
Something bite you?
Right
Let me see.
there.
Oh, baby, I'm sorry.
Right beside my weight.
Okay. What I was going to tell you, Nate, was those Klondike bars are really rich. So do you want me to cut it in half?
What do you mean really rich? Like super good? Like
they're just, you won't be able to eat the,
sweet?
yeah, you won't be able to eat the whole thing.
Like
So I got these Klondike bar Reese's. And so, I mean, I'll give you the whole thing if you think you'll eat it, but
no.
I couldn't eat the whole thing. Do you think you can?
I want to. Okay, is it literally like one chip challenge, bro?
It's a challenge, yeah.
Okay.
You want me to cut it in half?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll give you half, and if you want the other half, just come back and get me, and I'll give you.
Let me eat it.
I'll give you the other half afterward.
On camera.
Eat it on camera.
No, so they see my reaction.
Okay.
So I can tell them if it's bad.
Okay. Nate's gonna show y'all his reaction. Here you go. Here, we'll let you eat it. Here you go. We're wrapped in the foil. Come over here in the front of the camera.
I'm scared.
Don't be scared.
You're making.
Go ahead. For us, buddy. Let us know what it's like.
It's weird.
Take a bite. Take a bite of it.
Yeah.
Take a real bite, boy. Good? All right. That's yours. I'll put the other half in the freezer if you want to have it later. Well, I felt like it was really rich. I couldn't eat a whole one. And I can eat some food, y'all. Yeah, I did his hair for him a couple of weeks ago, and it's faded out since then, but we usually put like this really pretty blue, like Smurf blue color on it. So yeah, so those are, oh, and then I got these Mexicana. These are the La Michoacana, I don't know. I'm not very good at Spanish, but these. I love these. When I was a kid, when we went to California, at my grandma's house, I would have these all the time in the coconut flavor. Okay? And so I'm obsessed. Okay? But in this one, they also have strawberry, kiwi, I think this one's watermelon. Yeah. And so they are 12 frozen fruit and dairy ice bars. Oh, it's mango con crema, strawberry fresa, fresa con crema, strawberries and cream, strawberry, mangoes and cream, mango, lemon, which is lime, and coconut and cream. I love the coconut and cream ones. Don't y'all already know? Y'all already know. You know what? Most people say that he looks just like me, but he's a great combination of the both of us. These are the mushrooms I made. So for those of you guys that don't know, and I steamed broccoli. So for my sobriety birthday, I wanted to have a sobriety birthday dinner. And so I wanted to have steak, baked potatoes, and mushrooms and broccoli. So that's what I did. And it was delicious, y'all. Delicious. When I tell you, chef's kiss times 1,000. You know, I have a gift certificate and I can afford to do the highlights. I'm gonna be really honest with you, okay? I do really good with a balayage because it's easy to take care of. I don't have to get it done as much, you know. But when I do get my hair done in a balayage, it costs me about $250 to $300. Yeah, it's up there in the freezer. It cost me about $300 to balayage my whole head. So it's expensive. That's why I have kept it this natural color because it looks so healthy. And I have worked so hard to get my hair after dyeing it and balayaging it for like 4 years straight every summer. I've worked so hard to get my hair to a place where it's like really healthy now. You know what I mean? So, but I've been thinking the same thing, girl, because I have some old videos of when I had the blonde highlights in my hair. Like, it's not totally blonde, but like caramel, the caramely highlights, and it looks so good. So you are very correct about that. I don't know if y'all have noticed about me yet, but I'm kind of low maintenance. Like, I'm all about wearing my t-shirts and my yoga pants or my shorts and just being really comfortable at all times. And so that's probably why I haven't got my hair balayaged in a while yet. But I need to. This steak, when I tell y'all, was so fucking good. Like, Neil, I did so good. I did so good on the steak. Like, the flavor, y'all. Oh my God. So good. You know what I mean? So let me show y'all the seasoning I used because the seasoning knocked it out of the park. Hold on. We gotta do some chores, but I want to show y'all. Sorry, I'm not being. This is the seasoning I used. Thanks, Lindsay. Kinder's Buttery Steakhouse. If you guys love your steak seasoned like I do, try that. It was top notch, delicious. Yeah. T-shirts are comfy and easy and all that good stuff. But well, I'm telling you, it was so good. And so usually when I make steak, I mess it up. And I was like determined to not mess it up this time, you know? And so what I did was I didn't cook it all the way through. And that's one of the reasons why it would usually mess it up, because I would cook it too much. Because I would cook it till it was well done. This time I left it, a little bloody, and I allowed it to, I pulled it out of the oven, but you know, the pan is so hot, it's still cooked for a while. So it was a good pinky red color when I pulled it out. and remained that pinky red color. So it was juicy and delicious. Delicious. It was delicious, you guys. So what other questions y'all got? And like I said, I want to answer any and all questions you guys have. I'm an open book. Yep, I have nothing to hide. I'm not ashamed of my sobriety. I'm not ashamed to be on Suboxone. Like, I'm really proud of myself. So I am all about answering and helping you guys with any questions or any struggles that you guys have, in your recovery. That's what this channel is really about, is me and my sobriety journey and helping other people. And so I really just want to, let y'all know that sharing my story, it's not because I'm like trying to brag or anything like that. Like, I want to share my story for you guys to know that you can get sober and change your life, and you don't ever have to go back to using drugs and alcohol. You can be successful and have a job that you enjoy doing and be around people that you love and be in sobriety, Nick, you got any dirty dishes over there? You got any dirty dishes? No, I want you to pick up all your colors and stuff and put it back away. Nice. Yeah, when they go, please. Okay. Will you do that for me? Yeah. All right. Get to work. Do it.
And I was going to be stuck here for an entire year, just in a trance that nobody can save me.
Thanks, Tiff. Tiff Star, thank you. And ask that. So, what has been the hardest part of being in recovery? Oh, that's a good question. The hardest part about being in recovery. The hardest part for me about being in recovery has been dealing with all the different personalities of other people in recovery. I find myself, I get my feelings hurt, easily because I take things personally. And that to me has been difficult just in general, but I would say the most challenging part of my own recovery journey was, fighting for custody of my son. And then my husband struggling with his relapse in 2020. That was a very challenging part of our lives. And honestly, I think about all the time how we made it through that, because I didn't think we were going to make it through it and stay together, So, but we did. And I'm proud of us for that, because that was a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? Did I ever get in a fist fight in active addiction? Yeah. I've gotten fist fights with, not with a woman though. I know that's terrible, but I used to get in fist fights all the time with my ex. Punch the fuck out of him, and then he would knock my ass out. But I've never gotten into an altercation, physical altercation, where I was having to fight a woman ever. Really. I don't start shit with people. I'm an easy person to get along with, especially in real life. And so even when I was in active addiction, like, I never had like altercations with people like that. To me, somebody that's constantly saying that they're in fights with people or fighting people or doing this or that, that's a red flag. That's a red flag, because to me, that shows a lack of being able to be out in society and get along with people and be a grown adult, I've never had issues with people wanting to fight me or wanting to kick my ass or anything like that, because I mind my own damn business. And I don't fuck with people's shit. You know what I mean? And to me, like, if somebody is an adult and like they're always in arguments or fights with people, that says something about them. You know what I mean? I don't have that issue. Like, I'm an easy person to get along with. was trying to think, like, even when I was in prison, I didn't have to, I had never fought anybody in prison either. Because when I was in prison, I went in there, I kept my head down, and I just went through my shit. I minded my own business, you know? Neil's relapse, when he relapsed in 2020, was from March until December of 2020. And it wasn't like straight through. So he would get sober for like a couple of weeks, even a month at a time. So he probably stayed relapsed for like 90 days.
Probably know what I'm talking about. A little wonky, kind of a wonky. It almost looks like a stump.
Yeah, Rob, that's prison for guys though. It's different for girls. You know what I'm saying? It's different.
If they don't,
What is it called, Banana? I don't see the link, baby. What's it called? Thanks, Patricia. I appreciate it. I've got to get something to harden my nails because they like are flimsy, but they look good, but they're flimsy. You know what I'm saying? Okay, let's wipe down the stove. I had so much time. Oh, Pulitzer Opal. Thank you. I had so much fun sharing my story with you guys. And I'm honestly kind of surprised I didn't go back to my childhood, obviously, because if I had, we would have been here all night, as you can see. But I'm going to make a pre-recorded video for you guys. There was a child abduction, you guys. Not here. You're safe. You're safe, Nate. Don't worry. You know, did I tell y'all what happened the other day here at our apartment? It might. Nate, baby, you're okay. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're okay, son. It's just an Amber Alert. You're in the house with mom, so you're safe. You're okay. The other day when we were at the pool, there was a guy that was sitting out at the pool, and me and my son were swimming and his friends. It was on his birthday. But when we got up, we were about to get ready to go back to the house, and the guy like ran, and he was being chased by the cops. And basically, I think what happened was he broke into somebody's car or somebody's apartment and stole money from them or something. And the people called the cops, and he was trying to escape, right? Well, ever since that day, my son has been so scared that somebody's going to break in to the house and hurt us, y'all. And y'all remember the stories I told y'all about how when I was a kid, I was always afraid. My son is just like me. And so, as you can see, he just heard the Amber Alert and got afraid. And so I'm constantly having to kind of reassure him and let him know that it's okay. Everything's fine. You're safe here with mom and dad. Nobody's going to get in the house and get you. But it really scared him. Like it affected him. Really, Sandra? Yeah. Is it because I heard there's a lot of meth there in Hawaii? Yes, yes. Like, he worries. I told him, I said, the cops got that guy. He's locked up. You don't have to worry. But he thinks about it every day still. He's just so much like me. Rob, you ain't lying, honey. You ain't lying. That's why when a lot of you guys were like concerned for my well-being with like Jason and all that bullshit that was happening, that's why I was like, y'all don't have to worry about me. You know, me and my husband would protect my son, and no matter what, you know. So, is there any questions you guys have about my addiction recovery story? Is there anything that you guys, maybe you struggled with that y'all want to know the way I would have handled? Just anything that you guys want to know? Because if not, I'm going to get off here because it's almost 9:00. And it is 9:00 here. So it's been 2 hours, but I want to give you all the opportunity. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please ask me anything. I am an open book. Share, I really don't know, girl. Have no idea. I'm an open book. My passion, my reason for being here is to share my story with all of you guys and to help other people recover from the disease of addiction. Okay. They're all locked up in a safe. I'm sorry. I'm here to help people recover from the disease of addiction and to inspire people to make change in their life if they feel the need to. I don't ever want any of you guys to feel ashamed if you're somebody who struggles with substance use disorder or if you're somebody who likes to use drugs. I'm not ever going to try and shame you into getting sober. You can hang out with us. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm judging you or I think you're less than if you do use substances. I just couldn't use drugs. I use drugs and I don't have an off switch. When I use drugs, I go all the way, and it really fucked me up. I'm really lucky to be alive. I think when I'm going to make another video this weekend, and I'm going to share with you guys how I started using substances and how my substance abuse got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. It was like a stepping ladder, up, 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 up. And so for those of you guys that don't know, methamphetamine was my main drug of choice, but I was also a hard intravenous opioid addict. Okay. And I shot up Dilaudid, I shot up morphine, I shot up Roxy's, and I shot up heroin for over 10 years. But if you came to me and you said, I got heroin and I got meth, Nicole, which one do you want? I would always pick meth. You know what I mean? And so I abused methamphetamine for over 17 years. And it has done a number on my mental health and my body. And that I am still 8 years into sobriety trying to get my mental health and my body back to the way it was before I ever started using drugs. And that's why I struggle so much with, my eating disorder. And that's why I have struggled so long in the past with my mental health and being depressed. I just in the last year, since November 2022, started to come up out of a 6-year debilitating depression that kept me fucking sick, dude. Kept me in my bedroom all the time. I didn't want to go anywhere. And even my mother-in-law, y'all, she said the other day, she said, I can tell that you're doing better because you're getting out and you're going places. And I know I don't vlog where I go and show you guys where I go all the time, but I used to be in my house, locked in my room and not leaving, and that was for years. And so, I'm so proud of myself, and it's a lot to change in, a short period of time. So I'm just trying to little by little. How your son feels hearing about your stories. My son is only 4, but when he was 2, he knew something was up whenever I would leave him home with my husband or my Nate it doesn't bother him and he doesn't really think anything of it because my son doesn't remember me under the influence. He was only a baby when he got taken away from me. So he does not remember that at all. We've sat down and I've asked him, about if he remembered being taken away from me. And I explained to him that he was taken from me because I was in active addiction. But he knows that you guys are a part of my recovery and what helps me stay sober. And so he knows that y'all help me. And I've talked to him about that, about how you guys help me stay accountable to stay sober. Drugs and alcohol. I've also sat down and explained to him that the reason why I stay sober and the person that helps me stay sober and inspires me to stay sober and be a better person is him. And that's why I bought him a $50 Nerf gun today, because not only is it my 8-year sober birthday, but it's the birthday of the little boy who saved my life. It's his sober birthday too. And so not only did I get steak and all this stuff for me, but Nate got a save my life present. Yeah, I used to smoke cigarettes from the time I was 16 years old until the time I was 31. I did stop smoking cigarettes during my pregnancy, go figure. But I picked them right back up after I gave birth to my son. And I had got sober in 2015. In 2017, my little boy picked up a cigarette off the ground and said, "Look, mommy, I'm going to smoke a cigarette." And that's the day I quit smoking, and I've never smoked since. So with my son, you guys, with my son, I taught him about the disease of addiction. I've taught my son that some people struggle with mental health and addiction, and they need love and support and tolerance and patience. And so I have taught my son to be kind and empathetic towards others that are struggling with things that maybe we don't understand. And that's how I quit smoking cigarettes the day my son picked one up off the damn ground outside. It fucking scared me straight. Isn't that crazy? It made me so upset, because that day when he did that, I realized how much my son looked at me for everything. And so he was mimicking what he saw his mommy doing. Oh God, living a normal life. How did I adjust? Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I was a shut-in. Okay. And that's not healthy. Okay. Hey, Shug. That is not healthy to be a shut-in. Okay. But I would hibernate in my home. And I think a lot of it was because I went from having no stability, right? Really struggling. Me and my husband would couch hop for the longest time. After we gave birth to my son, my mother and father-in-law allowed us to rent the home that we were living in from them. But before that, we were living in an extended stay. Then I moved into the towers, and we lived there for a couple months, which was the apartment building that I was renting in the high rise. Then we got kicked out of there, and I moved all my stuff into my friend's house, and we were couch hopping between her house and his parents' house. And so we had no stability. So when we had stability and we had my own home, right? I felt so safe there. I didn't want to ever leave. And I would just stay home all the time. And that became, at first it was a positive thing because I was staying away from drugs. But after about 6 years of not leaving my house very much, I noticed, like, wow, I think I might be having a depression, right? And so I went to my doctor, and they gave me medication, and they kept telling me I needed to take more Wellbutrin and helping. And then I decided that, you know what, when we moved out of this house, that house, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, because I didn't want to live there. It's my mother-in-law's house. I didn't want to rent from my mother-in-law. I wanted to have my own place. And so when we moved out of there, I felt so much better. What physical changes did you notice once in recovery? Well, I gained a lot of weight. Okay. So when I was in my addiction before I got pregnant with my son, I was like 120 or 130 pounds, really skinny. Okay. After I gave birth to my son, I was like 165, 170. When I had gotten sober, I gained like 70 pounds. And that was the physical changes that I noticed, and that have been fucking horrible, because it's okay to gain a little bit of weight, right? When you get sober, it's healthy to gain a little bit of weight, but not the kind of weight that I gained. I gained obesity weight, and it was because I didn't have a healthy balance between, getting out of the house. And like I said, I was basically a shut-in. I was hibernating in my room all the time. And I was vlogging from my room and doing everything from my room. Now I live in an apartment building where we have a gym and a pool. And so even since I've moved in here, like right before we moved in here, I was like 250 pounds. And now I'm a little bit over 200, like 210 or something like that. So I've lost weight, but it's taken me a lot of changing my negative habits to lose weight. Yeah, baby, I lived in extended stays. I lived in a motherfucking trailer with no running water and no electricity. I lived in my car before. I've lived in hotel rooms. I've lived in my father-in-law's house, like I said. I lived with other people, a lot with other people. I was always living on somebody's couch because I was that bitch that would pay you $400 a month in rent to sleep on your couch as long as I had a couch, a closet, and a place to bathe and eat. I would always pay my way. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying being at home and being safe at your place, where you live. But it gets, when you're like me, it's not just about being safe. It was negative. It was me not going outside in the fresh air, right? And so, like, even now, like, I'm having to work really hard to like push myself and get my son and I outside to the pool or the splash pad because it's just healthy. It's okay with being comfortable in your home, but even grown-ups, we need to get out and get fresh air and get vitamin D, you know? Oh, Kimmy, that could be another reason why you've been struggling. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? And you know what, Kimmy? Like, I know that you're off Suboxone and everything, but if it gets really bad, there's nothing to be ashamed of if you need to get back on medication or something. Just please don't be too hard on yourself and end up relapsing because you don't want to ask for help. Okay. I got watermelon. Woohoo! I just feel like it would be better for you to go back on that and avoid like going out and getting fucked up and getting high. You know what I mean? Because I just feel like maybe it helped. Girl, I know I only stayed off Suboxone for like a month, but bitch, when I tell you, it helps me with my depression. It helps me to not be so depressed. Feta cheese, that sounds good. I don't have any feta. I mean, I don't think you're a failure. Well, that's that stigma. That's that stigma, baby. Would you feel like a failure if you were depressed and suicidal and had to get on depression medication? Would you feel like a failure if you, you know, had to get on mental health or get on diabetes medicine or something? Like, I just feel like it's such a issue because so many people make it an issue. But it's not. Why am I looking in the refrigerator? I'm done. I'm done. I ate and I'm good. Your Nerf gun. I don't know. Where is it? Is it underneath that blanket over there? You putting all those colors away like I asked you to? Okay. Ah! I bit my damn nail, y'all. Damn. I'm telling y'all. Okay, let's put these clothes in the washer.
Okay.
Me too, honey. The pool is where it's at. Or, you know, listen, okay? I fought myself too getting back on Suboxone, even though I didn't stay off of it very long. I still beat myself up about it, getting on it. But you know what I've realized? It's honestly, you guys, like, you're not a failure. I mean, and your mind is telling you that because your mind is trying to keep you. It's like our addiction wants to keep us sick, you know? And so I would say, with as much as you've been talking about you're struggling with thoughts of using Kimmy, like I'm real concerned about you in you relapsing, just so you know. And you've been talking about it for a while now, over a month. And so I feel like you're slowly but surely kind of working it out in your mind, and you know what you need to do, but you just got to protect your sobriety, girl, because that's the main thing. If you go out and you get pills, you could die or something bad could happen, you know? Yeah, you can show him your new Nerf gun. Hold on, son. Hold on, buddy. Nate wants to show y'all his new Nerf gun, okay? Eee. Here we go.
Can I show them? Hold on.
Show us, baby. What's up?
When you're cocking it back,
Uh-huh. Whoa.
you have to do this.
You got this. Yeah, it's hard. There you go.
And then you can shoot it.
Go ahead, shoot.
I'm gonna hit right the tip of the light bulb
Okay.
or the light thing. Okay, then shoot.
You have a bullet in there? You want me to do that part?
So hard.
Yeah.
There, and this is the only way.
Mhm.
You have to keep it like this to
Gotcha.
get the knife.
Gotcha. That's my boy. And his bullets are all over this damn house, honey. So, I got him this thing for Christmas, you guys. It's an art set, and it has like all these badass markers, colored pencils, a suitcase to put everything in. He can paint on canvases and sketch on sketch pads. It's pretty freaking cool, honey. I did pretty good on this present, huh? I know. This was a good present. Mama did good. My mom got him this Spider-Man art that we're going to color these Spider-Man posters for his bedroom. Because he loves Spider-Man. Spider-Verse. Miles Morales Spider-Man. Right, Nate? Oh, wow. So let's put all these colors away and stuff. And then that way everything is locked up, excuse me, in your suitcase of art supplies. Can't go wrong with Spider-Man, that's right. Hi, Nate. But, yes, you can show them how fast it shoots. I need to fold the laundry. Don't judge me. It's over there in the corner on the couch. Pride goeth before the fall. That's right, Sandra. Good job.
What?
Pride goeth before the fall.
What does that mean?
That means that sometimes we have let our ego and pride, that where we think we know what we need, but really we need help, so we're afraid to ask for help. because we may be embarrassed or ashamed. You know? Okay.
Okay, let's you turn the light on over there and be in
What? Oh, hell. Hold on. Now, what am I supposed to do?
No, in the micro.
Uh.
I want to show them how try this kid shoot.
Okay, I'm going to put them right here. Can they see? Yeah, they can see you.
It didn't shoot. Hold on.
Load it.
If I can load it.
Whoa, damn. Where did it hit? I heard it hit over here.
It hit like right here.
Lord help us. Okay, guys, I got to get off here because we're shooting bullets up in here. But I'll see y'all on the flip side. I hope y'all enjoy the stream. And thank you for everybody that congratulated me on my 8 years. It really means a lot to me. I love you guys.
How are